I didn't give him money. I gave him a language. On a coffee-stained napkin at 1:12 a.m. I gave him a language. On a coffee-stained napkin at 1:12 a.m. The next morning, I lost my account. 9 years later, the boy from that night built an offline operating system for refugee schools and turned silence into a classroom. Listen, because sometimes a single hand-drawn curly brace can hold a life open. Listen, because sometimes a single hand-drawn curly brace can hold a life open. My name is Noelle Hart. I write code for a living and apology emails for a hobby. My flaw? I overhelp. I cross lines with good intentions and pay the fees later. I have a soft spot for lost causes and locked screens. It was a winter night in Terminal E, a small airport that smelled like old carpet and cinnamon. I was flying home after a failed pitch, clutching a laptop full of almost. A storm pinned us to plastic chairs. The clock slid past midnight. That's when a teenager in a sun-faded jacket sat across from me, holding a cracked phone like a broken tooth. "Excuse me," he said, careful with his English. "You code?" His name was Rafi Idris. He was 17. He had a tent address on a badge from the transit camp outside the city. His name was Rafi Idris. He was 17. He had a tent address on a badge from the transit camp outside the city. He didn't want money, he wanted a map. "My sister," he said, "teaches kids in our row of tents. Sometimes there is power, sometimes not. Internet, never. I want to make a little app that works with no internet. My phone?" He shrugged. "It says I need an account. I do not have one. I only have tonight." He put a brown café napkin on the table. "Can you draw me the idea?" he asked. "Like a recipe?" The announcements coughed delays into the empty air. I took a pen. I drew a curly brace on the napkin, the left side of a doorway. "This," I said, "is a container. Inside, we put steps. Tiny steps the phone can do even when it's alone." I wrote, "Input, change, remember, show, input, change, remember, show." No jargon, just arrows. We sketched a loop with arrows like a prayer bead string. Read a file from storage, change it, save it, display it. I showed him if and else with 2 forked lines. If there is internet, fetch. Else use what we stored. I drew a tiny box labeled cash and a bigger box labeled world with a line through it. And then I gave him my real gift. Working patterns that didn't need logins. How to store files the old way. How to keep text small and pictures smaller. How to sync by hand with a cheap USB when the wind allowed. At 1:44 a.m., Rafi leaned forward and whispered, "Why is your hand shaking?" "Because I'm about to do something foolish," I said. And I did. "Because I'm about to do something foolish," I said. And I did. I used my personal developer account on a public kiosk to download a starter kit to his phone. I covered the camera with tape. I used the airport Wi-Fi like a guilty secret. I wasn't giving him a fish. I was handing him the instructions for a boat. He learned fast. He learned like a person whose tomorrow depends on it. We tested with the airport lights flickering above us. When the code showed hello with no internet, he smiled with his whole face. At 2:23 a.m., an email arrived on my screen like a verdict. Unusual sign-in detected. Account locked. A second email. Appeal received. Please wait. A third. Violation of terms. Access revoked. I stared. My portfolio, gone behind glass. The libraries I had paid for, gone. I had not broken a law. I had broken a line. And the line snapped back. Rafi saw my face and reached for the napkin. "We keep this," he said, tapping the curly brace. "This is a door. We will build the other side." Boarding began. My hands smelled like coffee and ink. I tucked the napkin in his wallet with a safety pin. "Promise me 2 things," I said. "Teach your sister first. And when you need help, ask. Leave a space for the answer." He nodded, eyes bright. I flew home with a locked account and a new kind of quiet in my chest. The good kind. The kind that waits. The year after, I became a person who starts over. New username, new repo. Fewer tools, more patience. I took odd contracts. I shipped code people never notice when it works. Things that load in the dark. Rafi and I spoke when the wind allowed. Voice notes sent on buses, screenshots taken under a single string of lights. He failed forward. He lost a week to a bug that was really a comma in the wrong place. He learned fonts that could draw Arabic, Kurdish, and English with the same grace. He learned that batteries lie, and that children lose things, and that paper sometimes beats screens because paper doesn't crash. He made allies. Lena Jawad, a teacher who could fit a lesson into 20 minutes of electricity. Oscar Mbeki, a tinkerer who welded broken laptop hinges and believed learning should feel like play. Marisol, a nurse who asked if the app could teach hand washing with pictures only. They built a ritual. At sunset, they'd pass around a blue plastic folder that held a single USB stick wrapped in cloth. Inside, lesson files, drawings, stories recorded as tiny audio bites. They called the stick the river. It flowed from tent to tent. A donor offered flashy tablets that died in heat. They said no. A vendor offered a platform that needed a password every 8 hours. They said no. Rafi kept saying yes to simple. His setbacks had teeth. A storm tore the learning tent. A rule changed at the checkpoint. Their river was confiscated for a week. A man with a briefcase accused them of teaching without permission. Rafi swallowed his anger and kept building. Small, quiet, stubborn. He sent me a photo one night. The napkin, now laminated, taped above a battered desk. The curly brace had bled where the coffee ring touched it. Under it, a child wrote in pencil, "Input, change, remember, show." I cried standing in my kitchen, holding my phone like a fragile animal. Then came year 7. Rafi messaged, "I want to build the whole thing. Not an app. A small OS. No logins. Boots from a cheap card. Local Wi-Fi with no internet. Captive portal that opens by itself. We seed content with the river. We call it Porchlight. So kids can find the door." I told him it was impossible. Then I apologized for the word. We sketched at a distance. He scavenged old netbooks. He wrote installers that forgave mistakes. He wrote a file browser that smiled. Big font, big buttons, 3 verbs only. Learn, make, share. He built a mesh sync. When 2 porchlights met, they traded not just files but index cards. Little text maps of what they knew. So search worked even on a boat with no bars. And then, just when it worked on a bench, adversaries arrived. A well-dressed man from a large NGO said, "We already have a solution." It required the internet. A local official demanded a fee to bless the project. Rafi refused. The official confiscated their generator. The hardest blow came from a security update that bricked 3 old machines. Rafi didn't sleep for 2 days. He whispered to the screens like they were children having bad dreams. I sent him a patch. It almost worked. Almost isn't a bridge. It's a photograph of one. Crisis. A warehouse with donated parts burned. The smell of plastic and loss poured over their row of tents. Porchlight died with the smoke. The river was gone. I thought about my old account and how quickly something you lean on can lock you out. I thought about the napkin. I asked Rafi to open the laminated page and shine a flashlight through it. "Do you remember?" I said. "The little scribble in the corner? The one that looked like a wave?" "It is a crooked semicolon." He laughed, exhausted. "It's also a checksum," I said. I was too much of a teacher that night. I hid a human-readable key in the ink bleed. It's the seed for our content index. We can rebuild the catalog from any copy if we have that pattern. He held the napkin to the light. The coffee ring glowed like a halo. The curly brace looked like the side of a boat. "Let me try," he whispered. They rebuilt. Not from the cloud. From memory. 9 years after the night in Terminal E, I stood outside a refugee school made of shipping containers painted the color of hope. A banner hung crooked. Porchlight. Today we try. There was no ribbon. There was no power most of the time. But there were children lined up with notebooks like lanterns. Rafi walked toward me, taller, tired at the edges. He didn't recognize me at first. My hair was shorter, my name different on the visitor badge. This was the small nod I didn't expect. He smiled politely. "You are from the city office?" I held up a clear pouch. Inside was the old café napkin, the curly brace still holding its corner. He stopped. A flood crossed his face. Surprise, apology, a laugh that had learned to be careful. "You kept it," he said. "You laminated it," I answered. He touched the coffee ring with one finger. We lost everything. This ugly circle saved us. Porch light booted with a click that sounded like someone finding the light switch on the first try. No login. Just the big screen with 3 verbs. Learn, make, share. Lena led the first class. A girl named Hannon tapped learn and chose stories. Her finger trembled. The page opened from the local card as if the internet were a rumor. Oscar rolled a cart with a solar battery that hummed like a cat. Mara watched 3 boys follow a hand-washing animation and then teach the younger kids without being asked. The room changed temperature. Not warmer, exactly. Kinder. A visitor in a suit leaned over and whispered to me, "How much does it cost?" Rafi answered without turning. "Less than 1 locked account," he said, and I laughed before I could stop myself. Then the light flickered and died. The generator had gone quiet. For a heartbeat, everyone froze. Rafi knelt, opened a panel, and showed the children a switch with a green dot and a curly brace etched beside it. "This," he said, "means inside. We work from inside when the world goes away." Hannon reached out and flicked the switch. Porchlight stayed alive. We didn't clap. We didn't make a speech. We stood in a room full of soft noises. Pencils, sandals, small voices reading. The napkin hung above the screen. The coffee rang like a moon over a door. Rafi turned to me at last. "Your account," he said. "I am sorry." "It bought us time," I said. "It bought us a door." Outside, the wind moved the dust the way truth moves through a crowded room. Quietly, then all at once. A boy taped a hand-drawn curly brace on the container wall next to the real one. He didn't write a lesson. He didn't write a moral. He just traced the brace with his finger.